Let's talk about your new book, Helping Your Kids Know God's Good Design. And again, this is for younger kids. And you say, we're used to kind of waiting to have the talk, about sex and sexuality and all of those complicated things later, maybe middle school or even a little older. But you argue that it's really too late at that point, even to talk about these sensitive subjects, and that we need to be preemptive. So kind of explain why we need to start this early, laying that foundation for our kids.
Yes, usually when I recommend that people start having the first of many sexuality-based talks with their children around the age of 4, there's usually this collective intake of breath because people are just thinking, much older, where I think that there are two main reasons that it's vital that we start these conversations around the age of 4, if not 4, somewhere around 5 or 6. The first reason is whoever is the first person to talk with us about a topic naturally becomes the expert on that topic in our mind, even if we don't try to make it that way. I just saw this a few weeks ago that my car started making a strange noise, and I was like, do I need to take it in to get looked at, or is it just getting older? And so I texted a friend and I said, hey, can I swing by my house tonight with your car and have your husband look at it and tell me if he thinks I should bring it into the shop? And she said, sure. So I drove to their house that night, and as her husband was coming out of the house, he was like, listen, I'm happy to help you out, but why are you asking me to do this? I don't know anything about cars. And I kind of chuckled, and I was like, that's a really good question. Why am I asking you to do this? And I realized that the first month that I moved to the city where I now live, I got a flat tire in the middle of driving, and my friend's husband came to my rescue, changed my tire on the side of the road, and pointed me towards a garage where I could get it changed permanently. And so without even trying, my friend's husband naturally became the expert in my mind for all things auto mechanics, even though he doesn't know anything about auto mechanics. And it's similar with our children, that if we're not the first ones to introduce them to the concept of sexuality, whoever introduces them to that concept, whether it's a friend, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a cartoon character, whether it's a YouTube influencer, that person naturally becomes the expert in our kids' minds. And anything that we then teach them is subjected to whatever that person who's the expert has said. And I mean, parents experience this all the time when kids come home with math homework. You're trying to help your child who's frustrated with their math homework. And as you're explaining how to do this math homework in a correct way, your child will fight you tooth and nail because they will say, no, that's not the way Mrs. So-and-so explained it. And even though you are explaining it correctly, it doesn't line up with exactly what their teacher said. And their teacher is now the expert because their teacher introduced them to this first. So we have to make sure that we are the ones who are introducing the concept of sexuality to our children so that they will view us as the experts and come to us with their questions, their concerns, their anxieties, their curiosities.
That is so wise.